Hi, I'm Aremeyaw. You're in the stream. Today, we met Aremeyaw Anas, Africa's most feared undercover journalist, a man who never shows his face on camera.
I'm Malika Bilal. If you're watching us live on YouTube or following along on Twitter, send us your questions and I'll do my best to pose them to Anas.
Now, before we jump into the conversation, here's a look at the sort of work Anas does. In this clip, we see him expose a practice in Ghana in which disabled children are killed because they're believed to be possessed by evil spirits. Have a look.
Mission Hamban for the Kabota. The Mal Kalama. Can you looking for him?
Finally, they are ready to administer the concoction. We make our way into the bedroom where they demand I hand over the child. They still don't know it's a replica.
Time, let's move.
You are under arrest. You are not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so. But whatever you say will be taken down and be given in evidence in a court of law against you.
Ghanaian journalist Aremeyaw Anas is the most renowned investigative journalist on the continent of Africa, and with good reason. Since starting his career 20 years ago, he has exposed corrupt police, judges, employers and government officials. He has caught criminals in the act. He has rescued trafficked children. His motto is name, shame and jail. So often the people his journalism has exposed have found themselves behind bars. That makes what he does a risky business. There have been threats against his life. He travels with a police escort and a bodyguard, and he has worn a whole series of disguises over the years. Aremeyaw Anas is with us now. Welcome.
Also joining us today is a panel of young African journalists with questions and comments for Anas. With us from Accra, Ghana, Kwesi Jempi Asido is a contributing writer at Quartz Africa. In Lagos, Nigeria, we're joined by Festus Ayora. And in Boston, Massachusetts, Erica Ayisi is a Ghanaian-American journalist. Welcome to the stream, everyone. I want to start with a tweet we got from a member of our community when they heard that you would be on the show, Anas. Al-Hassan on Twitter says, "He is our WikiLeaks. We love you, Anas." Now, this is a good reference point for those who may not be familiar with your work, but tell us, how did you get started in the world of investigative journalism?
Well, I started journalism as a print journalist, and as I kept on moving up, I realized that there was the need to define what exactly I do and to be more impactful to society. So I switched on to undercover journalism, and that's what I've done ever since. I did so because I felt that it had a more lasting impact on society and it helped towards the development of society.
So people watching right now, if they've just switched on Al Jazeera, that you're watching a really well-known Ghanaian undercover journalist. Have a look at him right now, because it is an extraordinary sight. And as we have to address this idea of you disguising yourself. When did this start?
Well, I guess as the work continued and we dived into many other big stories, and security implications became real, and me and my team needed to come out with some form of disguise that will ensure that you are alive to do the next story. No story is worth the life of the reporter. So we decided to get this disguise, and so it's beads that I wear and a hat, and I do this purely because of security reasons, to ensure that I can live to tell the next story.
You do realize it's extremely eye-catching and incredibly dramatic. I want to show how you did your TED Talk. So have a look here on my laptop, not you and us, obviously, but for our audience. So there's a look, cables, red and white cables, and then another one that I shared just a little while ago, a whole series of different looks. I'm just wondering if you really capitalize on this. It adds drama, it creates a name for yourself, and it's almost taken off beyond the work.
Well, the work we do is not about drama, it's about realities of society. I mean, if you've read the stories there are real stories that affect human lives. And we've gotten into serious situations where we nearly lost our lives. And I don't talk for only myself. I also talk for other African journalists. And I can tell you that if we say we're under threat, it's not a joke. They happen every single day. And those who could not take precautions have died. There are many African journalists who have died as a result of picking up the mantle to tell their story. And if there is anything you can do, you can only do it when you are alive. But there's no point in doing anything after your death. We have found this. It's not just this. Even if I took off this particular mask, the face you see is not the face that you see whenever I'm working. We've gone into the use of prosthetics and others just to ensure that we can live to tell the next story.
And even though with the mask or prosthetics or the blurring of the face, you have fans out here who are also journalists, many of them young, who are still worried about your safety doing the things that you do, exposing the people that you expose. We got a video comment from Judicial Osman out of Malaysia, and this is what she asked.
Hi, my name is Judicial Osman. I'd like to applaud you, Anas, for your courage, and you're an inspiration to many of us young journalists to practice ethical reporting. My question to you is, when you're covering a dangerous story, how do you manage to protect yourself and your family from direct threats made by people who know you and will go to great lengths to not be exposed?
Anas?
Well, I think the key thing about my journalism, a three cardinal principle that I look at, is naming, shaming, and jailing. Traditionally, journalists would want to just work and then publish. My stories are not meant for people to read in their bedrooms and relax. My stories are expected to have a needed impact, sending that bad guy to jail. That's where I get my security from. There is nothing confusing or irritating than doing a story and finding that same bad guys on the same street with you. So if we talk of security, security means that I do my story very well, I gather the hardcore evidence, I go to the court of law, testify, and ensure that that bad guy goes behind bars. If I kept that guy walking on the street, he is more of a bigger danger to me and my team than anything else. So yes, if I look at security, how to keep the family, how to keep friends, the key effect I look for is to ensure that whatever I do is good enough. I gather the hardcore evidence and I am able to present it to the court of law, and through a prosecutor, that person goes to jail. There is nothing more comfortable than doing that. One limb impacted is important. Once that story is able to save human lives, once that story is able to impact on the life of those children, on those streets, of those poor people, then I get my satisfaction. That's where I get the security from.
Erica, there will be many people today who will be watching Anas for the first time, just understanding and appreciating his work. As a journalist who knows his work, how would you describe his impact?
I think his impact is seen in the results of his work. When you watch a piece or when you read a piece, and then there's direct follow-up in the case with the children in the video clip that we watched in the beginning, we watched the arrests, and then also in the case with the judges and with some of them being disbarred. So I think when you see results in his journalism, that's when you know he is effective. And I do have a question, bringing back to the beginning, when Anas started his career. You said that you started off in print, and now you're in the digital age where we see you doing video. Can you talk to me about, does that have another impact in your storytelling versus reading it and now people are able to press play and watch it?
Well, it does. It does. You see, it's only introduces multimedia to me, because today you are a good journalist if you can make use of radio, you make use of television and print at the same time. That's what is the trend. You cannot just specialize in one. You've got to be able to have all those skills. So I think the print, yes, I was a bit slow in getting into television, but today I can say I've gradually learnt, and when I combine these three factors, I'm able to impact much more. If we are breaking a story, we are thinking about the print angle. We are also thinking about the TV angle. We are thinking about radio. We are thinking online. And that should be the way forward. In order to be able to disseminate the information to all villages and communities, we need to embrace all three. So I would say that my print background has really shaped me to be able to embrace all these three factors.
Let's talk about some of your work and show some of your work. There's a film, an investigation called Nigeria Babies, really well known. Anas, can you just give us an introductory sentence? I want to play a little clip from that investigation, but tell us what took you to look into the story. What was the story that you went in search of?
Well, Nigerian baby factories it's a story where we identified some people who made it their business to camp young girls, force them into pregnancy. They make babies, and then they sell the babies as much as some $200, $100, and all that. They were simply baby factories, and the rights of these little girls were being abused. They give birth, they never see their child. So the aim of this story was to go out there and buy these babies, and that's exactly the purpose we achieved. And also, we looked at the punitive side, where these girls who were engaged in that were all arrested.
Let's take a look. Nigeria's baby farmers.
Equipped with a secret camera, we will visit private clinics and orphanages to find out how easy it is to buy a child illegally with no questions asked. Here at Destiny's Child Orphanage in Ulako, we are amazed to discover how openly one employee would offer to sell us a baby. Despite her evident ill health, Ada Ezoyi is willing to register us for a baby and to broker a deal.
If we register, how long will it take us to get the baby? So does it mean that there are other people also on the list who are also waiting for their baby?
So Anas, when our community sees little clips like that of your work, we get comments like this. This is via YouTube Live. Johan says, how do you get to contact all of these officials without your name and your face being known? So take us behind the background reporting on how you embed yourself into these stories.
I don't work alone. I work with a team. And so before we get into any story, proper recce will be done. When I say recce, I mean reconnaissance. We spend a lot of time doing research before we get to the bone of it. Because you see, my journalism is about hardcore evidence, and I don't want a situation where I get sued in the court of law and I get to lose a case. So we spend a lot of time in making sure that we get these facts right before we move in. And I think that the key thing for every journalist is to be able to ensure that your research stage is properly done. Whenever this is done, you are not scared getting into the community. Also, we must not make a mistake of getting one target. Usually, you have multiple ones. You work on both, and definitely some will come up well.
Festus is with us from Lagos, Nigeria. Festus, when you're trying to do journalism in Nigeria, on the continent, it's really, really tough. What do you want to ask someone as experienced as Anas about the way he works?
Good evening. I'm Festus here from Lagos, Nigeria. Based on my experience with Anas, the first time I met Anas was last year in a conference in Ibadan, Nigeria. Based on my experience, I believe that Anas, the way he works, is so thorough, and at the same time, is forthright. He is this kind of journalist that goes after every story, and he takes his time. But in Nigeria, in a contrast, in Nigeria, you realize that this kind of journalism, we hardly see it in Nigeria. Trust me, we hardly see it, because you realize that even at the end of the day, if we end up doing the story in Nigeria, nothing happens. It just ends there. Nobody takes it from there. No, the justice system is so bad in Nigeria that the motto of Anas, which is to name, to shame, and to jail, in Nigeria, we don't see such in Nigeria. After you've named, you've shamed, nobody goes to jail. So I think this kind of investigative journalism that Anas practices should be also entrenched in Nigeria and some other African countries. So based on what I've seen, I think Anas's type of journalism is just perfect. It's perfect. It's unique. I've not seen it in any other country, especially in my own country, Nigeria.
Well, Festus, I don't think that it happens easily. I recall the first story I did when I was investigating. I did a story called Soldier Bar, and 260 people were arrested. I was a pimp in a brothel, and I had gathered evidence for 3 months. The police did a big bust. 260 people were arrested, and I went home that night very happy, only to get up the next morning and all of them were released. I am trying to say that these things don't come easy. It takes time for your security and judicial systems to recognize the work you do. So let's not feel that it doesn't work. Let's knock the doors. When you do it 1, 2, 3, people will start to associate those things with you, and they will do their best to help. You see, no one can help you define the problems you have than yourself. It is us on the African continent who can properly define what problems we have. So Festus, let's keep knocking on the doors and let's keep pushing the frontiers of our democracy. If we do that, one day somebody is going to recognize you and is going to make sure that whatever you do, they push it to that level. Because look, which legal institution or police administration does not feed on evidence? Evidence is key, and we are all looking for the better of society. If you have evidence today and nobody minds you, tomorrow if you have it, somebody will mind you. But the first step is that let us look for evidence, hardcore evidence that is important in the prosecution or in dealing with these bad guys in our society. It's not easy, but we've got to push the frontiers.
So I want to raise 2 points with you that we're getting from our community members. This is Nee Badger on Twitter, who says, in 2015, he was accused by Ghana's now special prosecutor, Martin Amedu, as being an anti-corruption-preneur. That's a made-up word there. Mr. Amedu at the time alluded that his work in exposing corruption at Ghana's port and judiciary was commissioned and possibly paid for by the president. Beyond the naming, shaming, and jailing of corrupt officials, does he, you, Anas, have financial motives for doing what he does? So before you answer that, Anas, though, we also got some questions on criticism of your work via video comments, along the same veins as that tweet. This is Eugene, and this is what he asks.
My name is Eugene. I'm a journalism student at the University of Ghana. Your critics are questioning your style of gathering evidence for your stories, but I want to know why you still haven't changed that. Thank you.
So on the one hand, you have someone asking if there are financial motives. On the other hand, you have someone saying people are criticizing your motives. Why haven't you changed?
Let me go to Uncle Martin Amedu's statement. And today he's the special prosecutor for Ghana. And when he was being vetted, you would hear what he said about me. The good thing about the two of us is that we all fight against corruption. We basically do the same thing. And we have sat down, looked at our books, and I should warn people in Ghana, the corrupt officials, if you have Uncle Martin sitting on that seat and I'm collaborating with him, then there's really going to be heat on those corrupt officials in Ghana. We have, spoken, we have looked at our differences, we have looked at our books, and I can only assure those skeptics, corrupt people in Ghana, that if it's about the two of us, we would definitely get together to ensure that the bad guys go to jail. Now, let me come to my critics. I think, first of all, it's fair to criticize. The kind of journalism I practice, I have tried and tested it, and it works. And look, I am not going to sit down for anybody in an Ivy League school to predict or to tell me how to do my journalism. I'm a product of my society, and I do what suits my society. I have chosen to name, shame, and jail. I know that it doesn't work in maybe the US or the UK. But tell me, the UK is not my community. I know my village. I know that they don't have pipe-borne water. I know that they don't have decent food. So if I pick a story in my village, I ensure that that bad guy who is taking that food away from my people goes to jail. Maybe an American will do it differently. That's his business.
Anas,
Nobody will tell me how to. Look.
There are consequences to this, and I rewatched just recently. You can see it here on my laptop. Justice, which was an investigation into corruption in the judiciary in Ghana. There's one point in this investigation where you bribe a judge just before he's about to make a decision on an alleged rapist. That man, the judge takes a bribe, that man then goes free. There are consequences to your approach, to your methodology, that may also be detrimental
to the consequences.
What happened to that man? What happened to that community? Did he go on to do anything else? Any other harm, any other violence?
What are the consequences if not going to jail? I mean, a judge receives money and there's a critique about the judge taking money to free somebody he's not supposed to free. I mean, how can this happen? Where are these judges? Look, my work has been challenged on many grounds. It stood judicial scrutiny. I'm a lawyer myself. I look at the laws very well before I make a move on any person. Look, the Chinese sex mafia, they are in jail for 16 years, all put together. The story I did about Nana Kwesi Agyeman, he's in jail for 15 years. I did that one too about the customs people. They are in jail for 16 years. So I have tried and tested my method. Look, I open myself up when I do my work for proper criticisms. My work stands the test of judicial or time, because who does work, who does journalism in the world and allow lawyers to cross-examine him? I stand in the court of law, allow lawyers, sometimes 6, 7 lawyers cross-examining me on the facts. I'm saying that what I publish is not sacrosanct. It's not. Let anybody who thinks he has contrary evidence to what I have gathered with my hidden camera come and challenge me. How come doing undercover on Al Jazeera or doing undercover on CNN or the BBC is okay, but doing undercover in Africa is not? How come?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same undercover, same cameras we use.
And as I hear you, I just want to make sure I get Kwasi in, because I know that you've been supporting young journalists very much as you've been doing your work. Kwasi, I've just been looking at your Twitter profile here. Solutions-focused journalism, activism, human rights, feminism from Ghana with love. You've been listening to Anas, who is an activist in his own way. What's the one question you really want to get out of him? The one answer?
Okay, the question I want to ask him is, what is he doing to ensure that there will be future Anases after he is long gone or retired? How is he passing on the knowledge and the experience that he has to the next generation of journalists across Africa?
Well, I think that it all boils down to training. It boils down to having people study under you, and we've been doing that. I mean, I'm sure some of your people would say that we've gone to Nigeria, we are doing a little bit in Tanzania, we are doing something in South Africa to get African journalists together. There are associations and groups that we've joined to ensure that whenever we get that opportunity, we have a support. The Tiger Eye Foundation has a support from MacArthur Foundation, where we are able to train some of these journalists and to impact them with the necessary skills that they deserve to do result-oriented and developmental journalism. Journalism that is based on hardcore evidence, and we've been doing that.
Anas, it's been a pleasure having you, and Kwesi and Erica and Festus as well. Thank you for being part of our conversation. Malika, how's this been going down online?
Lorenzo says, going underground sometimes is the way forward. Kudos, Anas. If Ghanaians hate you for your work, trust me, the world loves you. God bless you.
All right, and if this is your first experience of Anas's work, I recommend you go online to aljazeera.com, look for special series and a program called Justice. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.